Welcome, everyone, to the Dr. Finance Live podcast. This is your host, Dr. Anthony Criniti, also known as Dr. Finance. We have an extremely special guest today. We have Don Green here. Don Green is the CEO of the Napoleon Hill Foundation and an extremely successful businessman as well. We're going to learn so much today. So let's give a warm welcome to Don Green. Welcome, Don. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great, Anthony. I appreciate you taking time out to have this conversation with me, and hopefully we can learn from each other, and maybe someone else can learn. I think there's only two ways to learn: one's from other people and books and other people. So that's what we got to keep on doing.
Yeah, absolutely, Don. Well, I'm definitely a big fan of yours, and of course Napoleon Hill as well. So I think the best way to get started, let's learn about yourself first, sir. So, you want to tell us a little about yourself, how you got started, and your origin story, and then how you got to becoming the CEO of Napoleon Hill since 2000, I believe.
Well, to make it a little fast, I grew up in the country. My dad was a coal miner, but I always loved to read. That was one of the things. We did have good libraries. Didn't have books in the home, but the Bible. But we had good libraries. I loved to read, and I read this material. And I don't mean to boast or anything, but I knew I was going places when I was reading material. I was reading this material, and I was reading biographies of great men and all. And it come to me at a pretty early age that people working with their hands, most of them just make a living, but people that are using their mind, they're really doing well. And I was determined. I studied accounting, I studied finance, and my first job was with a finance company at $1.15 an hour. But I was thrilled because it was a clean job, and we had some educational courses, and I went up the ranks really, really fast. They called me hot shot because of, I guess, my energy. But I was managing an office for, which was actually CIT. I was managing an office for them at a really young age. And I was manager. I'm sure every employee I had was older than I was, some of them twice my age. But I knew I was going places. And then I was contacted by a person who had started a new bank. And he's 1 year, and the bank had got ceased and desist orders in banking. That means the examiners come in, you're out of kilter, something's wrong, and they put real tight restrictions on it. Told them he didn't have proper management, didn't have a credit department set up, and so forth. And I got a call from this gentleman, and he was 29 years old. He started a bank. He'd only been open 1 year, and he told me I came recommended, and he wanted to interview me. And I told him could do it on the weekend. I wouldn't take off from work. My employer was good to me. And I came over and he interviewed me, and he had read the books, and he told me about his background in reading. And he told me it was in 1975, which is 46 years ago this year. And he said, Don, you do a little extra one day, it won't matter. You do a little extra for a week, it probably won't matter. But if you'll continue to do a little bit more than all the other people around you, he said, I'm telling you, one day you'll be the success that most of the world just dreams about. He's a mentor today, and I won't say what he was worth. He's very supportive, and like he writes, and he wrote a piece in one of my books. He said we maintained a friendship even to this day, and he's in manufacturing, but he's hired some very needy people at my recommendation, including one of them, a little gal in Texas. It's got an MBA from Purdue in manufacturing technology. They sold their house and moved from Indiana down there and bought a house just on my word that they'd have a job. But being around people like that, I just know that. Of course, I was the second person in the bank, and it was about 8 years. Jim sold out to, which is now Bank of America, and part of the provision was that I be offered a position, and I did. And I worked a year, and the bank contacted me, and that was in bad trouble. They come in to close it, and it was in the roaring 80s, I guess, at the start of the 80s, and I went to work under those conditions. They lost all their capital at $35,000, I think I recall. And after losing their $1.5 million capital, it was a little bank. Made 90,000 the first year, then almost 400,000 next year, and then it took a couple of years to get up to $1 million in profit. So the trustees of that bank, they knew I could walk on water. I had a lot of good help, people that worked with me. And as I said, I never had nobody work for me. I had people working with me. And I was there 18 years. And then we had a chance to sell at a tremendous time in the year 2000. And I was there until for 18 years, and it was an opportune time. But during that time, I was reading the books. I'd written on the Napoleon Hill Foundation. Uh, Dr. Andy, I said, sometimes our ship don't come in, but why can't you swim out where it is? So I was reading materials, and so I wrote there. As I was a bank president then, I wrote the home office in Illinois, and told them what I'd done. I was spreading the news of the material, and I even had a historical marker put up on my own. I set a class up at the college and taught it 12 times free, and um, they offered me the job. I had it waiting anytime I wanted to. The other guy had been there. He was old, couldn't travel, bad health. And so we had an opportunity to sell the bank. I told the people at the bank, I said, I know I've got a contract, but I said, I won't go to work for another competitor. I said, if y'all pay me my salary for a year. And they agreed. And so I took the job at the foundation and never missed a day's work. And, uh, and it's just been absolutely unbelievable. Two items that at the benefit, I'm helping a lot of kids go to college. And second is, see, I meet people like you that I wouldn't have met if I hadn't been involved in the foundation. And I don't go around and talk about my age, but I've already had my 80th birthday. But what I do is not like work. I absolutely love what I'm doing. I see we published about 10 books last year, and we'll do that many this year. But we've got over 500 foreign publishers, and it's just remarkable the popularity of Napoleon Hill. Been dead 51 years, and he's more popular today than he was when he was alive. I mean, we publish our books in Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, uh, Belarus, Macedonia, Armenia, any place you can imagine. We publish some books, and we've done 40 some books with one publisher of all places, Saudi Arabia. Uh, that you just wouldn't dream of something like that happening. Yeah. We did a book with Sharon Lecter called Think and Grow is for Women, and they were the first country to buy uh, that book rights. It was a book for women by a woman, and we noticed things. We don't take credit for it, but it's got a little bit easier on the women in the Mid-Eastern countries. They can now attend sporting events, and they can drive cars. That might not be a big deal over here, but believe me, I bet you it is those women in those Middle East countries. So we've seen a lot of progress, and the material is very beneficial to people. And the people, the list is a mile long of people that's benefited from the course, but then also a lot of people that we hear from have read the books. Steve Harvey says he's read it 25 times. I met those people on Shark Tank. I think they've all read the book, and people like Billy Ray Cyrus, the Chicken Soup Soul guys, Tony Robbins, all them guys got started off reading Napoleon Hill works, and it's just amazing that the people. I mean, Billy Graham read the material. Dr. Charles Stanley, he's on YouTube, said he reads Think and Grow Rich once a year, and the people just absolutely amazing. And I'm sure there's millions of others that we don't hear from. So we're trying to make a difference.
How many countries did you say the book was in?
I don't even know. We're over 500 foreign publishers. I never really counted the countries, but for example, Outwitting the Devil, the other day we did the contract, and it was a 50th language, that
Wow.
we've done it in. Because sometimes, the language, they may get 3, 4, 5 countries. So, but it's in India dialects, and it's in, I didn't know it till I started working at this, but Afghanistan and Iran have the same language. It's called Farsi.
Yeah, Farsi.
Uh, and it's just, a little country of Armenia only got about 1 million people, I think, left. It was, they had genocide. It's been in the news lately. Wanting the Turks to apologize, but anyway, that's the language Christ spoke. So there's not many of them left. And actually, I met some people from California when I was out there. It was arranged because I was out there filming, and they'd read the material and fled the country, but they had a couple of pizza places, and I let them use Napoleon Hill quotes on their plates. They had organic pizza, and they served not in pasteboard boxes that we're used to, but they served on a china plate and brought it to you. So it's just been great, and it continues to do so.
Thank you, Don. I appreciate that. So you have an interesting background. So you were you always in Wise, Virginia, where Napoleon Hill Foundation is, or where did you grow up?
Well, was close by in adjoining county. I was born in Dixon County, about 30 miles away. My dad worked in coal mines, except I was born right before World War II started. I did not start it, but when it started, Dad went to Norfolk and worked in the shipyard during the war, and then of course he went right back to his coal mining job because that's it was his livelihood, working underground. And I got enough of it to know I didn't want to do that. I admire people that makes a living doing anything, but we get, biggest thing in life is choices. And I can't wait to finish getting through your books on finance, because now, listen, we're still learning. I read at least 3 or 4 books a week, and we're still learning. And I know that I used a quote from Victor Hugo on wealth. He said it wasn't that people were planning to fail; they just failed to plan. And that's what you talk about in your books now. You can't just wake up one day 65 and says, how am I going to retire? Things like our finance and all, but we got the choices. If we don't make a choice to save a little bit of what we make and put it into something other, and was it Warren Buffett said, if you don't make no money while you're asleep, you'll have to work all your life. We can't just count on a job income. We have to prepare something else. And of course, I guess at the time people thought Social Security the greatest thing on earth. It may be a detriment that people count too much on it, because most people don't really draw that much money. They draw enough to keep from maybe going hungry, but they don't. To me, it's life's a little more than that. I've studied finance a lot and haven't had anybody correct me, but I think there's only 4 uses of money, and the first one being for food, clothing, and shelter. But life's more than that. Eisenhower said, if all you get out of life is food, clothing, and shelters, then people in prison getting the same thing. They get shelter, they give them clothes, and they feed them. But life's a little more than that. And the second use of money is we need money when we're going to get too old. I'm 80. I don't know where I'll be aboard at 90, 95. I don't know. Yeah, But you should plan on the fact is that your employer don't love you, or you're simply physically not able to work. So that's the second use of money. And the third use of money is, I call it, being able to lead a good life. If you and I want to travel and you want to visit me, I want to visit you. We want to do stuff, go out and eat in fine restaurants, do things more than just survive. It takes money. And then the fourth one, when we have 1, 2, and 3, the fourth one is where I think we're successful. We've reached the point where we've taken care of 1, 2, and 3. Number 4 is we got money, still got money left over, and we can make a difference in other people's lives. Mm-hmm. We can pay our grant, we can help educate our children, our grandchildren. We can give the church, St. Jude's, for other worthwhile causes of our own choosing. We don't have to, but we're in a position to. But Most people never get to 4. They try to go they take care of 1 and then they jump to 3 without planning. And I said that's where that quote from Victor Hugo is as good as I've ever heard. It's not that people were planning to fail; they just failed to plan. And the earlier you start, I've got an assistant that I work with. I started in the 8th grade, and his grandmother asked me to give him some finance lessons because she had worked for me at the bank also. And he started in college age 17. He already had a stock account set up, buying stock with his money, and he had set up a Roth IRA to put some of his income in to start a retirement account. So he started in college at age 17 with an IRA, a Roth IRA, because I explained the difference in it. It wasn't around when you and I was getting started, but all that money will accumulate tax-free when it makes a withdrawal. Such much better deal than what the regular IRA is. And of course, you get up a certain age, you can't convert the IRA over. It's not profitable unless you're going to live a long time because you got to pay taxes on it. That's when you take it out. But that's a wonderful thing. There's a Roth IRA. So he had both that and a stock account when he started in college. Not many kids 17 years old have got a stock account of their own doing and a retirement account.
Yeah, that's really smart. And yeah, you're right. The younger you start to save, I mean, just mathematically, you can prove it. From 18 to 26 will probably make a bigger impact than the next 30 years of that, starting from 26 to, let's say, 65. It's just the beginning is where the compound interest starts building, and it can get to the same amount or faster just by time value of money. You're right. So that's really good.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I said, starting at a young age, what it does is it creates a habit. It becomes a habit, and the earlier we do it, the easier that habit is to establish. And it's just so important because the more we do something, I don't care if it's tying our shoes, the more we do it without having to put a lot of thought in it. It just becomes automatically. If you're saving 10% of your earnings, and if you get an increase, it doesn't mean you have to go out and spend it. It's some it's your own money, but people just make such mistakes. Like trading cars when you still owe on the one they got. Never pay for a car. If you just imagine if you drive a car several years, it's paid for, what you could do with that money.
Mm-hmm.
But, most people I notice in the banking business, they would make such decisions as when it got vacation time, they would trade when they had a payment due. See, they didn't have to make that. That's the way they handle their finances. Then they would trade with somebody that gives them 2 or 3 months before they have to make a first payment. So they act like it's free money, just like it never has to be paid back, or taking home equity on their houses. And it is alluring, I guess, to people. They advertise, take the money, take your equity out of your house. I mean, don't you have to pay it back with interest? It's a tremendous feeling to have a place over your head and have it paid for. I was at the bank 18 years, and when I went, I sat down and did some calculations. They were doing 30-year loans. The first loan I made was 15 years. I never made one longer, because if someone has to go more than 15 years to pay for the house, they need to find them a cheaper house, in my estimation, because you go 30 years, you're sitting there just paying mostly interest. And if you pay 5 years on, unless houses go up in price, you've not built up no equity. But you pay a few years on the 15-year loan, you've really paid down. And surprisingly, the payments are all much bigger. I can remember I had a doctor, and he wanted a 30-year loan. I told him we don't do 30-year loans. I said 15 is the deal, and I'll show you. He said, well, on 30 years, the payments will be half as much. He said, that just makes sense. I ran off an amortization to him and showed him. He said, how come? Why only that little difference? I said, because you'll be exactly right if you spend no interest, but the interest comes first. And they just don't do that. I mean, I don't know why anybody don't have a credit card. I have a couple of them. But there's never been a time that I didn't pay it off, because I'd sell something if I had to, or take something out. Because when you let the thing go over, it's just so easy to continue that. And you know, if you look at that schedule, like it would, just say you have $3,000 on it when it comes due at the end of the month, and they show you a schedule on that. If you look at your bill on that, you pay the minimum payment, how much time it would take you to pay off what you would have paid, and it would be enough to cause a heart attack. You know, but that's really what they want when they give you such a good deal on the card. They know eventually a large percentage of people, they're not going to pay it off. And once they start paying it by the month, it'll build up and build up on them. And a lot of them get in a position where they got to take another card out, and it builds up. And then they take another one. I've saw people had 6 or 7 credit cards. I mean, which is, you know, you can have financial freedom, or being in debt is not much difference in a well, I titled my book once I was working on. They changed the title, but it was avoiding debtor's prison. And in a sense, we're in prison if we got finances that we can't handle in an orderly basis, and we're living from one paycheck to one paycheck. And that's the reason all these places, these payday loans spring up, and they've made hundreds of millions of dollars at rates that run 600-700%.
Wow.
And
yeah, very dangerous, the payday loans. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, they take out $300-400, and then they spend it, and then when they pay that one back, and then they're short, and they got to go get it again. It's just continuously, it's the same money. You know, if they'd sell the item or something or other. I told one old boy who worked in the lawn care business with my brother-in-law. He had money problem every day, and it didn't matter how much money he was making. And I told him, if you sell something or other, if the payday loan you got, if you just sell something or other, then when you get paid, you don't owe that payday loan place. Then when you get paid, put $100 in a mattress or something, or a savings account, or $200. You build up a little bit of money, and then when you need some money, you can, if you have an emergency, you can borrow from yourself instead of paying that kind of interest rate. But you know, it's just simply a lack of discipline. You know, they know better. They just can't discipline themselves. You know, and I think I figured out a long time ago, if we're carrying around excess weight and we don't have no money, they're both of them 3rd grade math problems. If we eat more than we burn up, we're going to put on weight. There's 2 ways we can take it off. We can start burning more calories, and that will help. We can eat less, and that'll help. If we do both of them together, we'll get there quicker. Money's the same way. If we're in bad position, we can make more money. That'll help on one end. But if we'll spend less on the other one, we'll get there quicker. And it's 3rd grade math. You don't have to have a PhD to figure that out.
Yeah, I agree with you, Don. Like, you know, unfortunately, a lot of the students I had, even in the MBA programs, didn't know how to do basic percentages. Very, very sad thing. You know, it's basic math. You really don't. The advanced finance part that people get scared about, that exists for a very small percentage of professionals. It's really not for the regular person. Business math is enough.
Yeah, some of the worst people managing finances is the most educated. They just never was not attractive enough to them, or they get to making good money, and they simply owe more money. I mean, and that's the truth. A lot of them, you would think a guy that's got a doctor got a couple $100,000 a year income that he can manage. They some of the very worst. I had a doctor, which is a young guy, and he banked with me also, but he got in a position where I couldn't even help him. He took money out of his retirement when he couldn't borrow no more money, and then didn't realize that when he went to pay his taxes, then he owed money where he made a withdrawal out of his retirement account to pay up his debts, and his contingency like that. He ended up losing his house, and it was just pitiful. And I know during that, I mean, I got concerned about it, and And the young lady that worked for him, I had her and her husband house finance. I mean, he worked the railroad, if I recall. I went in there one day and I just said, I called her by her name. I said, I'd like to have my file. What's wrong, Dawn? And I didn't answer. She said, oh, I know. She said, don't blame me a bit. I did not be wanting to go to some medical person for advice. I'm figuring this, I began to question his mental capability, because believe me, if you got all them kind of problems, it's going to affect your performance.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be laying under a knife and the guy worried about coming getting his car or getting a notice that foreclosed on his house. It's not a very good situation.
So Don, thank you, Don. I have a lot of questions for you, so I know I want to respect your time.
Okay.
First thing, I'd like to just step back. So I know you have an extremely successful entrepreneurial part of you too, before you went into banking, before you did the CEO thing. And you did a lot of different jobs. Well, not jobs, but your own businesses you created. For example, I was reading that you had your own petting zoo. Is that right? You
Yeah,
at one point?
I was in high school, and of course I had done other things, but Dad and them, we had a friend that caught poison snakes, and we learned how to catch them. And we had a little building on the edge of our land, and we just dumped some snakes out there and put a little sign up that said reptile garden, and we charged 25 cents for people to look at them. And it was an on-the-job learning. I added souvenirs later, and I guess they won't come and get me. It's been I was 15, 16, 17 years old, but it was just I mean, it was a lot of days. I made $100.
Wow.
In the summertime. I mean, that's a lot of money when the minimum wage probably, I don't know, I guess it was probably 75 cents. And but I learned a lot from marketing. Dr. Anthony, if you stopped there and I recognize you, then I would tell you, hey, you don't have to pay next time you bring people here. You show them around. And I added souvenirs, and you can buy a quarter, something, a little ashtray costs a quarter. You put a little sticker on it that says souvenir of Indian Mountain Reptile Garden. It's all of a sudden it's $1 item. And these old guys in the coal field, a lot of them went north, but they'd come back to visit, and there wasn't a lot to do in the area. And they would bring them. It's just through the summer, June, July, August, September. They would bring them to the reptile garden, or we called it snake pit. And man, some of them people buy $30, $40, $50 worth, just little souvenirs, basically just junk. But ashtrays and just little items that they could be called souvenirs. And I learned an awful lot doing it. But and it all started off. The first money I made was necessity. Dad worked in the mines, and I remember asking $8 for a Boy Scout uniform. And Mom said, honey, we'd like to, but we can't waste your money. Okay, she considered buying a Boy Scout uniform a waste of money. Said, your daddy crawls around the mines and he might get hurt or even get killed. We wouldn't have no money. Said, why don't you go and mow your uncle's yard? Said, he gave you a quarter last time, didn't he? And so I actually mowed yards and picked up pop bottles, and I got to $8. Guess what? The Boy Scouts didn't look so good no more because I wasn't going to spend my $8. I learned a lot about finance through necessity. And today I love Walmart. I got the Walmart Community Award 1 year for service and community or something, and I own Walmart stock. But if you walk in Walmart and more machines out there, you see those young kids putting money and stuff in them slots. You can answer two questions. Either their parents or their grandparents gave them that money. They didn't walk 3 or 4 miles picking up pop balls at a penny a piece and then drop it down in a hole like that. The money has no value to them because they didn't earn it. And earn your own money. My daughter, when I was a bank president, she was I guess about the 9th grade. She got a job at a dime store, and they may have paid 50 cents or something. And I had a friend tell me, he said, Don, your little girl working at a dime store. He said, don't you think that looks bad? A bank president's daughter having to work? And I said, you don't understand. She loves what she's doing, but she's learning to talk to people, show up on time, to make change and so forth. I said, I learned a long time ago. We learn a lot in the classroom. but the lessons on life, they're learned outside the classroom. And today she's a hustler. She's a CPA and an interior decorator. She had about 8 pages back in the Better Homes and Gardens. She owns a villa in Hilton Head, which she's got on a lease basis, and she runs 3 businesses. And her husband, they've been married now 29 years. He told me they hadn't been married long. He said, Don, I swear, I know I could take your daughter, put her in the car, take her out in the country, put her up on a big rock somewhere, and before the day was out, she would be figuring out how to make some money. And it just, initially it was, we do those things because we need to. We need the money. But later, it's the satisfaction of doing it. I remember coming home one evening and I told my wife, I said, I had dinner with, she said something, see anybody today or something? I said, yeah, I had dinner with Billy Joe. He was the bank's attorney. He said, something wrong? I said, no. I said, I've told him to draw up the papers. I'm going to start a cable TV company. She said, a cable TV company? You don't even watch television. But I said, Phil, honey, average person walks 6 or 7 hours. And I told some guys, I got checking on what it will cost them. We won't borrow no money. We'll put the money in. We'll build it as we go. Keep the money and just keep expanding. And of course, our competitor wanted to buy us out, which is now Comcast. It was Adelphia then. And we did one town, we did second town, we started going to third and fourth, and they kept coming back to us and offering us. First offers, they threatened us to lower their price, put us out of business. Of course, we already knew you can't do that to put your competitor out of business. FTC regulated them, and unless they're going to do it all the way across state, they weren't about to cut everybody else's rate just to get rid of us. And so I don't know, we had it 15, 16 years, I guess, but we thought what we was getting for it was astronomical. And of course, the money we got was capital gains too. So we did it just because we could. And same way with spring water, dry cleaning business, and the land development. It wasn't necessary to need the money because I was working in banking and I had a real good salary. But I just saw the opportunity, and it wasn't hard to do. It wasn't hard to do, and it just something other. A person being an entrepreneur, making their own money, there's nothing beats it. But even when you're working in banking or what I'm doing today, I still think I'm working for myself. I mean, you call it selfish you want to, but I'm looking out for myself. And of course, I know for looking out for myself, I got to make the foundation look good. I got to make it look good. And honestly, you could talk to them, they wouldn't have believed the results that we've had. We had 16 books when I started in the year 2000. Today, we got 160 some books. Where we've had influence, we didn't have influence in foreign countries when I started because they had a belief was them people wouldn't pay. And it's been remarkable. I mean, they've come and visit me from everywhere can be imagined. And I've had very, very little trouble. I review the accounts receivable. We've had a few that probably that they couldn't help it. Things happen. And some were slower they're paying us. But it's been absolutely outstanding, and we keep adding new publishers all the time from different countries because today they look at the internet and what have you. But being an entrepreneur, it's not cut out for everybody. When I did a dry cleaning business, I really was dissatisfied with my clothes. I had 30 some suits. When I was working in finance business, I asked, where does people in this town, these executives, get their suits? And they said they go to Sobel's. It's a men's store. And I had to pay for it by the month. I wouldn't make that kind of money. But they had a sign above the cash register said, if you want to be a success, first dress the part. And so I don't care who it was, little lady or whatever, come into the bank, they could tell who the president of the bank was. Because I like Ronald Reagan, I never took my coat off. Because I thought as I explained to the teacher in the class, little girl said, it shouldn't matter what you dress. And I asked her, how about if boys want to take you out on a date, you're going to dress up? Oh, yeah, I'll make a good impression on it. I said, you need to make a good impression on your customers and on your fellow people that you work with. You dress for other people, you don't dress for yourself. And that was a necessity. But I mean, I took Inc. magazine. They sold a little kit, some information on how to establish a dry cleaning business. And I think it was $39.95 or something like that. And I ordered it and studied that thing. And I learned a lot women were appreciating drive-ins that were being installed. They'd have to take kids out of the car, and one-day service and so forth, and bought the equipment, and the people came in and trained their employees, and it took off right off. It took right off. I mean, they were just never spent a nickel advertising other than putting a sign up out front, and it was called The Cleaners. If your wife said, Dr. Anthony, take his clothes to the cleaners, that was us. We had a bag made the first time you came, and we put your name and address on it, and we would put, he likes his shirts lightly starched or on hangers or folded for travel or whatever.
That was your business, Don? The cleaner business?
Yeah.
You owned it?
How's that?
That was your business, the cleaners?
Well, yeah, it was just a business we did while I was in banking. But we did things, and I still do. I mean, I was in there one Saturday. I stopped by the bank, wasn't open on Saturday, and some lady stopped in. I heard her at the counter tell the lady, "We had a death in the family. Can I get these back today?" "Oh yes." So after she left, I told Juanita, I said, "Don't charge that lady when she comes back. She's had enough trouble." "Well, we'll go broke." I said, "No, this cleaner's owned by Don and women. Believe me, we ain't going to go broke." And we charged more than other people did. I was in there one evening. We was open till 7 o'clock because I did the payroll. I didn't do no manual work or it, but I did do the payroll. And it was a half a dozen little giggly girls stopped in there with their band uniforms. I remember it was in the fall when school started. They were getting their band uniforms clean. And I said, "You girls seem awful happy." I said, "Tell you what, we're not going to charge you to clean your band uniforms." "Oh, you're not?" I said, "No." And of course, I knew from because my daughter was in school, they were about 150 in the band. I said, "We'll clean all of them kids. You tell them, first time they come down here, we'll clean them for them for free." And when they left, one, he said, "That beats all I ever seen. I don't know how you can do it. I don't know how you can do it." She said, "Probably them kids, most of their parents don't even use our business." I said, "We sure give them an awful good chance to now." And I wasn't worried about the thing because I knew it was going to take care of it. And when we miss an opportunity to do something like that, then I mean, I did it in banking. I wrote a thank you note every day before I left the office. On one occasion, I walked over to the counter and I was trying to think of something to tell her when. I said, "Anything happened on you today?" "Yeah." I said, "Did you see that little lady come here carrying that roll bag of coins?" Said she saved them for her grandbaby. She's going to save it, set up an education fund, and we rolled her money for us, and $200 or $300. I said, "Give me her name and address." She gave it to me. I sent her a nice card before I left. And I don't know, 4 or 5 days a week or something, she called. And she said, "Mr. Green, I want to thank you for that nice card you sent. I've told everybody, I can't believe how nice y'all was. And you sent me a thank you card." Said, "I know people that's got all kinds of money, probably millions of dollars in your bank. And I only put in a few $100 of change. And you sent me a thank you card." Now, how many people do you think she told? I didn't need to take no ad out in the newspaper.
That's smart.
And I still do it today. I will not leave here of a day if I have. I'll think, what have I done something? I'm going to send somebody a book out. I'm going to send something other out. I'm going to do something other that adds a little bit to it. And I make it a point that because I got a little sign on my where I eat my cereal in the morning. It just says simply, "God, show me someone I can help today. In Jesus' name, amen." So it's on my mind that I can deal good deed through today. And the return may not be from that one deed, but it'll come back to us. It'll come back to us.
Thank you, Don. Brilliant. So, Don, is there anyone on this planet who knows Napoleon Hill better than you?
Well, but again, Doctor, I said, I know people's read it. I mean, I got a guy that does our stuff, and he's traveled with me. I've been on a speaking circuit with him, and he's a tremendous story himself. He says he's read it 325 times. But the thing that I think people miss, if I'm teaching them whatever, learn the material. That's great. Know the 17 principles and know that. Of course, it's not 17 in Think and Grow, it's just 13 steps. He had to do stuff later. But apply it. In the book, Think and Grow Rich, the word action is 77 times. You your wife can send you to the store to get the ingredients for a big cake, and you can come back and set it on the table. She has to take it and do something with it, and it may not turn out the first time, especially if you're first married. She get the oven too hot or too late, and then the cake gets halfway done and it collapses. But that don't mean she quit. It means she got an opportunity to try it again. But you got to take the material and say, where does this apply to me? And yeah, and where can you use it? And that's the importance of it. It's not in being able to just memorize the principles and tell somebody about it and being able to recite them, going the extra mile and applied faith and know the quotes and all. It's what you can do with it. And that's what you should be reading it is saying, where does this apply to me? You know, it seems like in the chapter on desire, which is the second chapter, he's got the steps to riches. And the first one, he says, basically, what do you want? You call it your purpose, whatever. And the second one is, it says, what do you intend to give to entitle you to what you want? And it's like people skip that. You know, there's no such thing as something for nothing. Hill told us that, and Thomas Jefferson said, that was the saddest day in a person's life was when they sit down and start figuring out how to get something for nothing. In other words, what are you going to sow to reap? What are you going to give to entitle you to what you're wanting? And it's that simple. It's finding out what can you give someone that they either want or need, that they will in turn give you what you're wanting, which is if it's money. So it's the application of the material that's beneficial. Billy Ray Cyrus said he stopped to help a man. He'd been thrown out of school, college, and the doctor told him to stop in his office. He stopped and he gave him Think and Grow Rich, and he said he read it. He said it was like a voice told him to start a band. He wrote one chapter in that book on it. He tells that story on. He entitled it Perseverance, and he said they had a little band getting $50, rough place. There'd be a lot of fights, throwing beer bottles. But then he persisted. He stayed with it and with it and with it. And then he come out with that song, Achy Breaky Heart, the girl like to dance to. And then all of a sudden he's making millions. And then we know the story of they tells the story of Miley Cyrus in the book. He actually called her Smiley, and they dropped the S when she went in show business. But it's taking the thing and doing something with it. And that's the benefit of it. And a whole lot of people, I'm sure, don't get that. And they tell us in school that knowledge was power, P-O-W-E-R. That's wrong. It's only potential power. It's not worth anything until you put it to use. I mean, you have to go on Jeopardy or something. You got to do something other with it. It's the application of the material that's where you can use it. It's where the benefit comes in from.
Thank you, Don. That's brilliant. For example, Bob Proctor, I was on a room with him on Clubhouse the other day, and he was saying how he reads Think and Grow Rich every day. I mean, is that really necessary to do that? I mean, obviously it worked for him, but do they say that you should do that, read it every single day?
I guess you think he should. You know, I mean, like I watch Jeopardy after I eat, and at 8 o'clock, I read some in the Bible because I make a habit. But Zig Ziglar, I did a fundraiser with him up in Pennsylvania. Of course, he's been dead. Gosh, it seemed like it's been 10 years. I'm with him, but it's 2003. I can remember that particular case. Someone made a picture of us who was together, and he autographed it and framed it and sent it to me and said, "God loves you, Don, I do too." But he said was about it being, how bad do you want it? You know, and he said that's all you have to keep on your mind is what it is that you're working toward. How bad do you want it? And I think most people simply don't want it that bad. I don't know what people is thinking. I know you have to have some kind of system, like people says writing a book. Book's not hard to write if you discipline yourself. You sit down and outline. Just put down 10 chapters or something you want to write on, but then make up a schedule that, you know, a decent book is 40, 50,000 words. And you can break that down into 12 months. And that means you got to write about somewhere around 4,000 words a month or about 1,000 words a week. And if you start missing weeks and missing months, guess what? That year's going to go by and you've got 3 lines written or something other. So I guess from doing it, it's a matter of discipline. But people ask me about reading it more than once. I tell you the difference is in reading at different ages. The material's not changed, but we have.
Mm.
C.B. Hill, which is on our board, he's Napoleon's grandson. He said when he was 12 years old, Napoleon gave him the book and $10. He said he blew the $10 and he never read the book. And he said then, but he was kind of I won't say he's a troublemaker, but he was a little bit trying to find his place. He went in the Marine Corps because his dad served in the Marines. And he said he found the book in a store. I think he said 75 cents or something. And he said he read that thing and he read that thing that weekend. And he said that's what he knows now, what his grandfather was trying to teach him. It came to him. And that's when he decided he's going to get a college degree. So he enrolled in Vanderbilt while he's still in the Marines and got a degree in engineering. But more than that, he served 23 years in the Marine Corps. And when he got out, his goal was to go to medical school. At the age of 46, he went to medical school. And he is a family practitioner up in West Virginia today. So the material had not changed when he read it and applied it, but he had. He looked at things in a different light. So I don't know how many times people should read it, but the Jim Stovall, my friend, he said last time he had talked to Dr. Billy Graham, he said the part he liked to reread was the part on going the extra mile, which most people don't want to go the first mile unless they extra ones. And you know that really there's a story that in the Bible where the Jews are complaining about being a beast of burden for Roman soldiers, and they thought they were getting sympathy, and they were told when a man asks you to go a mile, go twain. TWAIN. Of course, most people don't stop time and look at it, means twice. In other words, simply do a little bit more than what's required. But most people are afraid that that's not my job and what I'm getting paid for, and so forth and so on. They don't look at it as an opportunity to mature and grow.
Thank you, Don. Don, can you tell us about the lineage of Napoleon Hill? So, for example, I believe the instructors around after Napoleon Hill in this order would be like Earl Nightingale, Bob Proctor, and then led into everybody you talked about, like Jack Canfield, Tony Robbins, basically so many people, and it all really stemmed, all the mentors stemmed from Napoleon Hill. Is that the right order? I mean, Earl Nightingale, Bob Proctor, after Napoleon Hill.
Well, yes, but you know, his earlier books was with Ralston Society in 1928. He did Law of Success, and then they did Think and Grow Rich. So it was a publishing. It was a publishing bit till I guess. Nightingale Corner, which we still had to do an awful lot of material, but people were reading it, and you know, there was some other people. I mean, well, like Jack Canfield, he worked for Mr. Stone, and I see it would be in your real early '60s, I guess, and of course, Tony Robbins did an audio with them, and so it's provided a livelihood for lots of people. The fact is, we do lots and lots. I don't know. We got 25 audios, I guess, with Nightingale, and we do a deal with Bob Proctor also. But you know, there's different steps on the material. The material is beneficial to you to learn it and apply it yourself. If that's as far as it goes, then it was beneficial. But the second thing that even expanding on that is you study it enough to where you can teach it, which allows a lot of people out there to do it. And then you might say people like Bob Proctor that they not only learn it to benefit themselves and teach it to others, but they teach it to others on how they can teach it to others. In other words, they get a much larger coverage by getting people indoctrinated into the material and the application of the material. I talked to him on the phone, let's see, Monday, I think, yeah. Monday, and we were talking about a workbook he's revised a workbook we got, and he said, oftentimes the students, it was hard for them, or they had trouble of taking the time to do the workbook. In other words, instant gratification. And I can tell you the material, but you take a workbook and it asks you the question. It forces you to think. I made the students fill one out. It's 110 pages, and it went through all the principles. So I can't tell you what your deafness or purpose is. You know, some of that stuff you have to take the time to study and answer those questions on what do you want, and what your plans for getting there, and when are you going to start, and so forth, and so on. It's actually it's a work study thing. A lot of people would just like to sit and listen, and then go to these high-priced meetings. It's all emotional. Everybody's jumping up and down, and then they go home and they think something's happened. Believe me, I was on Oprah twice on a radio program, and we were and they asked me about The Secret both times, and I said, well, Hill wrote about The Secret in 1919, and I published it in a book with Wiley called Napoleon Hill's Golden Rules. And but you can think and think and think and think, and you can attend seminar after seminar and after seminar, and you spend a lot of money. You can go home and you can wake up Monday morning and there's not no car in your driveway. You got to do more than think. You got to plan, and you got to act. It's the application of it. To think that you can, it would be saying you could eat cheeseburgers, French fries, and drink milkshakes, but you think about losing weight. It's not going to happen. I think and Grow Rich is a wonderful title, but the growing part means you have to do something. You have to plant something other, and you know, sow and reap. You know, you got to do something other, and a lot of people don't want to engage in that. I think they can take shortcuts. There's not anything wrong going to those high-priced seminars and listen to them guys. It motivates a lot of people, but if that's all it does, you wasted your money, because you got to do something besides just get excited.
Yeah, that's brilliant, Don. I agree. You know, it's definitely about action. You need to act. So Don, I want to respect your time. I actually had like 20 questions, but I'll tell you what, I'm going to save a lot of them for another podcast if you're willing to come back, and maybe we can just answer a few more questions in a minute or less, and then we'll close out if that's good for you.
Yeah, I'll probably get carried away talking, but I don't care if you probably 7-4 or just give me a list of yours and things we want to talk about. I'll be more than glad to.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
All right, so maybe like a real easy questions. So what are your favorite financial books? Can you name 3 off the top of your head?
Well, I guess Think and Grow Rich makes you think. One that influenced me quite some years back was Peter Lynch is Up on Wall Street. I think he retired from Fidelity at 48. But I read Bernard Baruch. He was advisor to 8 different presidents. Of course, I read every article I see on Warren Buffett. His ability to pick stocks is just amazing. And I'm sorry I don't own all of his, but when he bought Microsoft, I bought Microsoft. When he bought Apple, I bought Apple. And I guess a year before the pandemic, I was at my daughter's villa and somebody left something to read, and there was an article by Warren Buffett. And of course, we were in South Carolina, and he was talking about a little company called Sonoco, SONOCO, and their abbreviations, SON. And they were a 100-year-old company located in South Carolina, and they make paper products. Basically, they make pasteboard boxes. And he was heavy in, but nobody never heard tell of them because it's a 100-year-old company and it's always been profitable. But he went on to explain how simple it was. They make pasteboard boxes. Their biggest customer is Amazon. And that year that Warren Buffett was talking about, Amazon had shipped 42% of everything sold on the internet. 42%. So while pasteboard boxes doesn't seem very romantic or whatever, you know, they're providing a necessity. And I just love to see them people carrying 4 or 5 boxes. The fact is, I got 2 books delivered here today from that I ordered over Amazon. One of them was my friend Adriani Trigiani, which She's a big she's a big time writer. She used to write for Bill Cosby. She's from Missouri, and I knew her parents, and we've always kept up with each other, visited each other at the New York Book Fair, and she made a movie with Whoopi Goldberg and the girl's other's name, but she's been very, very, very successful, and she had a book out, and she sent me a note. She usually sends me a book, but I went ahead and ordered it, and then I've read all of Bill O'Reilly's books on. I like our attorney and I both would like history, but of course I've always subscribed to Forbes and Forbes magazine, Wall Street Journal, and I don't say I do exactly what any of them says, but I try to get enough that I can make my own decisions.
Thank you, Don. Brilliant. I like those books too.
Okay.
Do we need money to survive?
Well, I'll tell you, it's not the most important thing in the world, but it's right next to oxygen. It's hard to live without it.
Yep, I agree. How about finance? Is finance necessary?
Absolutely. I mean, I mean, it's just, to me, it's finance. It just means planning. You just don't wake up one morning and say, you look down there and says, golly, that stuff adds up to more than $1 million. I mean, it doesn't happen. I mean, somebody give it to you, but it happened slowly over a period of time, and it was because you did some studying, you did some planning, and you did take some risk. As I told my wife, she was early married. I didn't buy stock, but when I started buying a little, she always thought it was risky. And I told her, I said, Phil, honey, you know, I read a lot. Biggest risk in life is taking no risk at all. Mm-hmm. So I kept showing her how it's doing pretty good, buying a little stock. So we was eating at the Cracker Barrel on that. I don't know, that's probably been, I don't even know, it's probably been, so she's been dead 6 years. It's probably 40 years ago, I don't even know. But anyway, she said, when she's getting a little more brave, she said, well, you're always buying some stock. Why didn't you buy Cracker Barrel? She said, we love his food, and you're always busy. I said, well, you keep the checkbook. I said, how much money above our utilities and so forth that we needed? She said, you could spend a couple $1,000. So I bought $2,000, and I didn't take the dividends or anything. I just let it add back. Of course, it split some, and let's see today that $2,000 is worth $159,200.
Wow.
So it takes time. It takes time, but I think I'm not a big risk taker, but Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Walmart, Waste Management, Johnson & Johnson. Golly, I can rattle off the number of them I own and the ones I don't own. I believe in the capitalistic system. I believe in owning. If we have faith in this system, I know we have a lot of people run it down, but I've not noticed a whole lot of people leaving. It's the worst economic system that's ever been developed that works, as somebody described it. And I think it built this country. I don't think the government give the government credit for it. They don't create wealth. It's guys that's willing to go out there and take chances, mortgage your house,
that's right,
work 18 hours a day, and some risk failure. You cannot avoid risk and failure. When you start doing that, you won't do anything, because failure is always possible. But failure, you simply look at it as a lesson learned. No, I'm not quitting. It just means that didn't work. I got to do it a different way. But so many people put out a little bit of effort and then say, well, I didn't think it'd work, or my wife told me I shouldn't mess with it, whatever, rather than having perseverance and sticking with something.
Well, thank you, Don. I agree with you 100%. My first book was called The Necessity of Finance for my students, because it's necessary. I agree. And I want to take you out to Cracker Barrel one day, by the way. I love Cracker Barrel.
I do too.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So we have a couple more questions left. Let's see. What is your purpose, sir? Like for business? First of all, do you realize? Would you agree that you need a purpose in business? And what would be your purpose?
Absolutely. It's what keeps you going. Even a good book tells us we must find our purpose. I mean, you should get up in the morning looking forward to the day rather than, boy, another day. I mean, we only going through this way one time. I was asked several years ago, Don, we know your age. How long are you going to work? I said, when it starts feeling like work, I have a passion for what I do. And when I'm not enjoying it, I'm not going to do it no more. It's that simple. But why should somebody hate their work, hate to go money? Don't do it no more. My God, I would attempt anything. I would work on a garbage truck if you have a passion for it, to what you're doing. Life's too short to not enjoy it. We spend so much time at work. We should enjoy what we're doing.
Yeah, brilliant. I agree, Don. What on that point though, that the Napoleon Think and Grow Rich book, the 13 steps. I'm writing the first book right now in that series, 13 Steps to Riches, and I had to write about desire, the first book. I, I couldn't help but think, why didn't he put purpose as the first chapter? He should have been one of the first steps. He went straight to desire.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know him, but he said, the philosophy in a sense to be modified as he matured, because I heard some people says it wasn't just about money. I said, yeah, it was too, but at the top of the first book printed, it said for men and women who resent poverty. And he wrote in the book, he wrote it for the millions of men and women who are living in poverty and fear of poverty. But now as he got older, he saw it wasn't just money, not necessarily. And by 45, he wrote The Marriage Key to Riches, and he didn't place that the first thing. But when you don't have no money, it's just like food. You don't have no, what are you gonna think about? You don't think about food. And so he matured. So in '64, the last book that was published, when he was let's see, about 84 years old. It was Think and Grow Rich with Peace of Mind. He had realized that there was people, he knew people, and he had friends with a lot of money. They weren't necessarily happy. And he never I don't exactly come across it directly, but I've studied him and the people he studied and what have you. And to me, his happiness is real simple. Just find somebody else you can make happy. As long as you concentrate on yourself, you're going to be one miserable individual. You're going to say, God Almighty, why can't I have Bill Gates' money or Warren Buffett? What's wrong with me? I mean, I work as hard as they do. You accept ain't nobody wants to hear it. Nobody wants to hear it. But if you'll find something other, a passion to helping someone else, and I don't care if it's saving dogs and cats, something that you believe in that will take the attention away from yourself to other people, you'll do okay.
Thank you, Don. Brilliant. Two quick questions. They're tied to each other, and we'll wrap it up. What would you like to accomplish in the next 5 or 10 years or so?
Grow the number of people it affects it, and I'm working on a educational process. I would like to reach a whole lot more people than we do, and we have so many different sources of with the money, the royalties from audios and books and courses and whatever. There's so many different things, and expand on them. And I would like to someone or other that's not been done some chapters, but the young people that's went through this course, their success stories would fill a whole bunch of books.
Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Thank you, Don. Last question. What would you like your legacy to be?
Well, I did a book with Jim Stovall back in the summer, Live in Your Legacy, the gift of giving, live in your legacy rather than leave a legacy. I would hope that someone with an old guy's laying there stretched out with a flower in his hand or something other than not saying how much money he had, or he was a bank president, or wonder how much money he got, or how much stock he got, or what have you, or real estate, or what. I would hope somebody said, I wonder how many kids he helps in the college. Help make a better life for other people.
Okay, thank you, Don. All right, so I'm going to give you the floor before I turn it over, but quickly, I just want to, I have your book here. It's titled The 101 Attributes that you sent me, and I want to just acknowledge and appreciate how much I appreciate you, Don. I thought that was the coolest thing, and you said that earlier. I hope you enjoy your book. Your new friend, Don Green, just sent me it this week. I just met Don a few weeks ago, last week actually, and Don, you're just a wonderful guy. I mean, you do what you say you're going to do, and it's just, I'm just so honored to be around you. I think there's so much more to learn. We learned so much today. So I appreciate that, Don.
That's one of the lessons I got from my mother. She might have had a 7th grade education, but she had wisdom. And she said, if you tell somebody you're going to do something, you just be sure you do what you said.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Don. Any closing remarks before we close out? You want to show your books or your website? The floor is yours.
Yeah, or naphill.org, naphill.org. They can find all they want to about us. And believe me, as I tell you, I tell them, best investment we'll ever make in our life is the investment we make in ourselves. The second best investment we'll ever make, that we invest in our family and our employees.
Okay, great. Thank you, Don.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to close out now, folks. You've been watching the Dr. Finance Live podcast. This is Dr. Anthony Criniti IV, also known as Dr. Finance. We had our special guest here, Don Green. Please make sure to follow the podcast, subscribe, follow Don Green, visit his website and organization, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks again. Bye-bye. Thanks, Don.
Thank you.